Give me a little bit of your time and I may well change the way you invest. This isn't some secret sauce stock picking malarkey, I promise you. It's also not magical ETFs, unfortunately. And I'm definitely not going to pretend I know what the market's going to do tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. But we're going to go through 5 mistakes that you can definitely improve in how you invest. But the scary thing is, I see it all the time in the comment section. I see it all the time with other content creators. You may not even think that these are mistakes, but over time, they can harm your portfolio. And mistake number 5 is probably the one where you're most blind to. Now, before we get into this is obviously not financial advice. It's just kind of experience-led content based off what I've seen, what I've done, and more importantly, what I've learned from. The goal here, and I talked about this in my newsletter today, not to overcomplicate it. Simply that. It's to have the opposite, a simple approach, simple investment strategy that is ultimately repeatable. Now, mistake number 1 is quite simple, in my opinion, because on the surface, owning more ETFs feels more diversified, but that's usually where it harms you, and that will link back to mistake number 5. A lot of ETF investors start off with one, then they add another, and then they see someone talk about dividends or another growth fund or an emerging market, and they add that one. They will then see that the S&P 500 is doing well, and then they'll add that. And then they'll see some random technology fund, information technology, semiconductors, whatever it may be, do well, and then they'll add that one. And then they may want a bit of Europe or a bit of UK or a bit of Japan, and then they'll add those. Before they know it, you've got 8, 10, 12, 15 blooming ETFs, and you're thinking, what the hell have I got here? Bit of a problem. The problem is not the ETFs. I love ETFs. They make life simple, and they are very, very efficient in what they do. But the problem is, and you can see on the screen, there's choice. Adding more ETFs to your armory, to your investments, to whatever it may be, does not mean it's good. Because sometimes, as we know, it just adds to more than what you've already got. If you buy, say, the S&P 500 and the All World Fund, you know there's going to be a bit of a crossover. And again, it's the same with other markets. Even if you're buying a dividend one, you may find there's an overlap with the European market or Japanese market in certain funds as well. With the emerging markets, you may find there's massive overlap with certain things there as well. The thing is, having 3,000 stocks in one and then 3,000 stocks in another, then 2,000 stocks in another sounds great. But you know for a fact you're going to be playing with a bit of fire, especially if the market goes into a downturn. But the other side of this story is also stock. I see all the time thumbnails on YouTube. Ignore stocks. Don't buy stocks. It's not stocks. To make more money in the stock market, you need to buy stocks. Now, I completely agree. Some stocks, dog turd. Don't bother buying them. But that's because you're buying the wrong things. You need to have a sufficient system and identification of what to buy. Not buy too many of them. Look for a certain type of stock that fits you. Individual stocks that are solid, have a good dividend, maybe a valuation, and you know they're good, they're tangible, you can go and lick it if you want to. That is usually relatively quite good and safe. But if you're just going to go and buy all the stocks and just go on every single YouTube video, go on the top 5 stocks to buy this week, you're probably going to lose. So you need to understand research. Now on the screen, as you can see, this is new. You've not probably seen this unless you're a paid member already. This is all dummy data, and I have just signed the contract for a data set to get 10 data sets, right? All live data. It's going to be amazing. I've added a stock screener to this. As I say, it is all dummy data. I want people to understand the basics of ETF investing and stock investing via logic. Basically, give me the data, I'll turn it into simplistic approach, and you can understand, is it good? Does it pay a yield? Is it going to fail? You get the idea, right? Because yes, you can look at, say, Trading 212, and I've showcased this before. You just see revenue, profit, dividend, debt, cash flow, problems, and it's just data. It's like, your brain cannot compute it. Where this, I'm hoping it does. So just to give you a little bit of an example, again, dummy data, you can see very, very clearly it will give you a lot of stuff. So explain like I'm a 7-year-old. That will use Perplexity. Invest score. This is a metric that I've discovered that works pretty well for a lot of things. Put a lot of it into information. Give it a formula and give it a ranking based off the school grading system. I think that will help you make an informed decision. Bull and bear cases. The data, the information, is it good? Is it bad? Again, as I say, dummy data. The earnings hub. What are the earnings like? What have they been like? You know what I mean? Again, you can look at the revenue. That's a bit wishy-washy, but a bit boring for some people, but some people may want to look at that. You get the idea. Again, dividend history, the company information, and related stocks. If you have got a model that you like to look at and the type of stock, you will identify it here pretty quickly. And this will be available very, very soon for Plus members on your MoneyMate. But as I say, just to round it up, it's not about owning ETFs or individual stocks. It's about the wrong ones, too many of them, too much diversification, and going down the wrong path because you've gone down the research rabbit hole, which is quite common if you're a new investor. Which leads me into mistake number 2, which if you have been following me on my short form content, you'll know that I kicked up a little bit of a stink with something not too long ago about rebalancing. Because mistake number 2 sounds very boring. It's not respecting or rebalancing or profit taking on your portfolio. You need to respect it because if you are on, say, Vanguard and you buy one of their funds, that is, say, 70-30 split between stocks and bonds, for example, right? That's respected. Why isn't your portfolio respected? If you've got one stock that takes off like a rocket, you should probably address it. In simple terms, how this works is if you want to have, like me, 70% of my portfolio as funds and 30% stocks, I want to keep it there or thereabouts, right? If I've got one stock that does very well, I like to bank a little bit of that and then move it into the underperformance. Some people said in the comments that's a bit backwards logic. It's not, because if you've decided to buy that stock, there's a reason why you own it. If it's like any other stock, they're not always going to go up at the same time. Each sector has different properties and situation where may well be good. So look at, for example, now with the world of the conflict in Iran, certain things have done well, some things have not done well, obviously. So that's important. But getting realized profit in a stocks and shares ISA when it's tax efficient is fine, because even if it is taking £200 off the top of that, that's profit, fine. It's then moved into something that is underperforming. If that then does well, you will make more money. Kind of is logical in a way. You don't want one portfolio move being that stock, Nvidia, making me thousands and thousands of pounds and do nothing about it, and then it crashes, because it does have problems when things do crash. Leaving money on the table is horrendous. This is why I like income for my stocks, because I don't have to take profit if I'm getting income. And speaking from experience in crypto, I've left 6 figures on the table and lost it and literally evaporated overnight. Don't be in that position. It is not worth it. Because I think psychologically, the validation is, oh, that's done really well. I'm going to make loads of money. That's great. I'm happy. But just because it's going up and up and up doesn't mean it's validation. You should probably just do something about it. Even though you have won, you can win even more if you take some profit. But even if you do really well with the rebalancing, there might actually be one thing that will eat up your portfolio value. Let's talk about that bit. I'm sorry, but this is probably the least exciting part of the video, the wrong account or not understanding withholding tax, which I think is actually quite common. Oops. So firstly, if you are in the UK, stocks and shares ISA, that is your default. Then you've obviously got a self-investment pension, which again, another default you should be using. If you're using a general investing account, you probably shouldn't be, unless you have to because of tax reasons, or it is not available because you are not in the UK, or you live in, say, Guernsey or something like that. Now, I know people with high wealth will have to use a general investing account. That's absolutely fine, because you can't put more than 20 grand a year in a tax efficiency ISA wrapper, which makes sense. But you don't want to do that all the time, do you? So yeah, just a default, stocks and shares ISA or a pension. Cool, that's fine. The next bit though, which is a part of this, is withholding tax. The amount of people that do not understand withholding tax is a little bit scary. Basically, right, if your fund is in another country, not in Luxembourg, not in Ireland, they're for tax efficiency, tax avoidance within the UK, right? Or if they're in the UK, they are ISA safe, essentially. If they're not, or if they're in the Netherlands, or if they're in the US, you're going to pay a withholding tax. If you do not sign the W8 treaty, it'll be a 30% haircut on your dividends. If you do sign it, it's a 15% haircut. So if you're getting, say, Coca-Cola, for example, or insert American stock here, or other market stock, whatever, you will lose a percentage of that dividend payout every single time. You also have to worry about the FX effect. So if you're buying Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, there's going to be an FX effect with the currency exchange rate. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But yeah, I hate talking about tax, but ultimately you don't want to be paying tax unnecessarily. We're already paying unnecessary tax with stamp duty, unfortunately. That needs to get binned, let's be honest. But you get the idea. Now, I'll be honest with you. I think mistake number 4 is probably where most people in the video will be able to relate. Let me know in the comment section if you do relate to this, because I think a lot of people will. It's changing your strategy every single time something happens, or if the market moves in a certain way. Because when the market goes up, you want more risk. When it goes down, you want a bit of safety. You don't buy as much with conviction, and you start to get a bit frazzled and burn out. Then you walk away from it, and you miss out, I think, on good opportunities. Because you may well just think, well, the US market's doing well, I just want the S&P 500, or the rotation to European stocks or dividend stocks, I just want those. You don't want to be, swapping around. There's probably only a couple of realistic investing strategies that are out there. When you look at income, growth investing, or certain type of niche investing, it's fine. There's loads out there, especially when you look at the defensive side of it or cyclical side, whatever it may be. But too much of one thing randomly is a bit of FOMO. But I get it. You're probably not just subscribed to me. You're probably subscribed to other content creators. You're probably on X. You're probably on Reddit. You're probably reading other stuff on Bloomberg, whatever it may be. And you may go, ooh, I like the look of that. And then you start, you know what I'm going to say. You just do it. And then all of a sudden, you're buying into the green chocolate of Dubai or that other random green stuff you get in coffee nowadays. You get phases. You know what it is. But let's be honest. If you are changing your strategy every single time, you probably don't have a strategy. You just have emotions. And that's fine. Everyone's got emotion. We're all human. But this is why I think every single investment needs a bit of a job. Is it growth? Is it diversification? Is it income? For example, is it a core holding? Is it a satellite position? As another example. What would make me sell it? I'm hoping my tools will help you, give you ideas about, is it good or is it bad, for example? Or can I hold for 20 years? Or what would I need to do to buy more of it? It needs a job. At the end of the day, investing is a bit of a way of life. And I know people hate me saying that, but it is. It's like a real big hobby you have to be passionate about. It's not like knitting or playing football. You got to take it a little bit seriously, because at the end of the day, markets move along with your emotions. So if you don't have anything concretely nailed into the floor, well, you're going to certainly deviate from it. Now we're going to go back to the screen. I'm going to go back to my newer stock screener, because we got to talk about mistake number 5, the absolute kit and caboodle of why most investment strategies fail. And I think genuinely it's the overlap, because this is huge for ETF investors. It's huge for stock market investors. If you've got too much of one thing, you're going to get sick. It's like having too many sweets. So if we go onto my ETF screener, now this is obviously all dummy data. I have generated a much bigger, better overlap analysis, which will help you. And it also has a portfolio analyzer as well, which you can add your individual stocks to it as well, if you so have them, which makes it even better. Now, the reality is quite simple. When we talk about diversification, now, if you want to, you can jump onto the website, go into the free ETF screener. There's a one like this on here anyways. So you can do it now if you want to. But I've developed this a bit more, and it gives you more consideration. Now, yes, it is dummy data. It's not going to be 100%, but you can see on the random ones that I've just plonked on here, you can see there's a 10% overlap, average 3%, which isn't bad. Also gives you the average fees. But overall, it will give you some nice considerations in terms of certain situations that you may or may not want. You can also do what-if swaps if you want to swap it with a certain fund to see what kind of happens and see if anything changes. You can see overall, things may well change, may get worse, they may get more expensive, you might see a bigger overlap. But the all world funding, you're going to go from a 21% growth in terms of the overlap, which is a bad decision to make, obviously. But yeah, going through, you can kind of see what funds would cut the overlap. It just helps you make better decisions. But I think people are blind to it. They're like, as I said before, mistake number 1, you get 5, 6, 8 funds. All of a sudden, you're paying 1 to 2% on average fees, which is pointless when you can do it with just one and pay probably a lot less. That will gradually eat into it. Because again, if I go to the free version, right, there's one thing that I did. Now, I'm not gonna pick on the person, because it's anyone could do this, and I probably did it myself. One thing that people do, right, and I'll say it, they buy the same funds twice. And that's another thing. On my screen here, I've got similar ETFs. People will generally, without realizing, buy either the same fund twice. So the all world fund's a good one. This one, for example, is quite a common one, and obviously so is this one. People do buy the same ones. I'm like, don't do that, because it's the exact same. Simple things like that will change 2 things: your diversification and how much you are actually spending. But I get it, right? If you do this, I know for a fact your research is just like this at the minute. Without using screenings or without using other stock tools, you're just going onto their website and you're like, what's this? Okay, cool. And then you'll be like, right, I'm on Vanguard. It's got, a lot of stocks. Ooh. And then all of a sudden you're like, right, I'll buy that. And then a couple of weeks later, you'll buy something else. And you don't realize you've actually bought the same thing because you may not be looking at the portfolio data of the numbers or the exposure or the allocation or what stocks are in there. You get the idea, right? So with that situation, it's going to become a very, very big long-term problem when you're not looking at the obvious in the room, which is what are the stocks, what does it do, and why does it do it? Which is obviously why I'm developing all these tools to hopefully help you consider and make better improvements. Because, at the end of the day, you want to keep, say, the S&P 500, but you would not want to put the all-world fund in there. You may want to buy something totally different, which is going to help you. So, for example, here, you can maybe put in, these are all obviously dummy data, so it doesn't matter, but let's just look at names. You may want to put in something, say, the FTSE 250, for example. It's an improvement. Why? Because you're in the UK market and that's the American market, quite obvious. And then you can see overall, this will probably be better when it's actually live in terms of sectors and holdings and whatever. But again, as it says, you can make different choices. You can buy gold, for example. That would majorly change it. But yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of bump here. It's pretty cool. It will hopefully help you. It's still a work in progress, obviously, but it's much better than what you probably got. But there we go. 5 very common mistakes that I see all the time and ways I'm hoping you can fix it. For me, good investment is about having a clear path, clarity, a plan, and a strategy that you're on board with. You've made that choice. It's like going to buy a car. Would you go and buy a car you've never seen, you have no idea what it is, and you just go up to it blindfolded, sit in it and drive away? Probably not. So think of that as your investment side of it. But yeah, I know I've showcased a lot of my tools here and I'm hoping it does resonate with a lot of people if you want help. But yeah, there's links below, no obligation. There's a lot of free stuff on there as well that you don't have to pay for anyways. But that new stuff is going live in the next week or so. If you want more information on ETFs and what you can do with them, there's a video here. This will majorly help you understand the absolute Billy basics.